Just for information, we'll start at 2:15. We do call it to order, right? And I'm just All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call this meeting of the subcommittee. Representative Barrett, thank you. Subcommittee on Higher Education Appropriations to order. Thank you all for being here. We are glad to have Chairman Martin's committee as well. And those of you on higher education, certainly we share a common goal in what we're trying to accomplish. Just a brief overview, we are going to be talking about close to 15%, right about 14% of the state's annual budget that is dealt with in this subcommittee. There's a lot of lot of dollars, a lot of treasure that our citizens share and expect us to invest wisely. The good news is I believe I got an estimate of the count between the different systems represented today that we'll be hearing from. Over 900,000 lives a year are being touched, and I would say, probably with the Chancellor's approval, that they're being transformed along with every year. And so this money that we're investing, this treasure that we're investing on behalf of Georgians is making a difference in transforming lives and legacies. So I'm excited to be here with you. We will start off with a very large organization that we're very proud of, the University System of Georgia, and the man who needs very little, zero introduction, Governor, Chancellor, Secretary. Thank you for being here, Mr. Chancellor, and please get us started off.
And those who wish they were here. So, well, I will be brief today and quick, but I do appreciate your comments, Chairman Newton, and certainly hope that you and your members and the General Assembly feel like they're getting a good return on investment for higher education. It is transformative, not only individually, but it's transformative to our state. And this great virtuous cycle of economic development and education, and just feeds on one another. So that's a good part. But I'll move on into your recommendations here. We provided you, I think, a one page there on the numbers there. They're going to be found on page 1 through 5, and you'll find that the 26 budget is fairly straightforward. It reflects the changes mostly through the funding formula. We do have a record number of students enrolled, matriculating at our university systems here, and that summarizes that page. One page summarizes recommendations for the USG to include the tracking number references. As you know, the teaching program found on section 41.18 on page 3 is the largest program for the USG, and please allow me to start on the changes in the teaching program first. I'll go in order of the tracking sheet. 41.18.1 is an $11 million increase to reflect the change in the TRS employer rate. It's going slightly from 20.78 to 21.21. You'll see that with really all of the hearings you have here today with those, and as other education budgets as well. On 41.18.2, you'll see a $1.2 million decrease to reflect an adjustment to agency premiums for DOAS administered insurance programs. You'll see changes in other USG programs as well as we go through that. On dot 3, $19.4 million to support increases in health care costs for active employees and retirees. We all know what's happening here statewide, in that way nationwide, really, with our health care cost continued increases. The state share of the projected $37.9 million was funded through the funding formula. The remaining amount will be covered by other fund sources, including auxiliary revenues and sponsored funds. That's where the $19.4 million. 41.18.4 is 169.53. That's the primary credit hour growth through the funding formula, and those funds support increased costs associated with a growing number of students enrolled by our institutions. It's you may recall it's a 2-year lag, so meaning the FY24 credit hours are used for purposes for calculating the FY26 formula. And in FY24, we were coming out of the COVID downturn, and we had a growth of credit hour production of growth of 3.7%, indicating that growth in revenue with that funding formula. It also includes $1.7 million increase in maintenance and operation funds for new academic square footage across our institutions. You will know that we are being very mindful of not overbuilding and trying to reuse and restore many of our facilities here rather than increasing square footage, making sure we do not overrun. But when we have record enrollment, we still have some needs there, and that's what the 1.7 million in M&O for that as well. In 41.18.5, we have 17.7 million that's really a correction from last year. You dealt with it in the FY amended 25 amended. That way, this needs to be recorded in the base budget. It was a kind of an oversight last year that where the original budget didn't include funding for the increases of the COLA associated with the benefits, especially FICA and retirement in that way. So that's we'd like to include that in the 26 base budget as well. Now I'll move on to the B units. The first four items span across multiple programs, obviously, in those B units efforts there. The $983,000 supports the teachers' retirement system rate change again for B units. $1 million to support increases in health care costs for active employees and retirees in the various B units, and $574,000 to adjust the FY25 health insurance rates for several B units. That again is that calculation error that we're catching up from last year. And 41.13.1 may be of interest to you, Dr. Newton. Obviously, it's an $8.7 million decrease to remove the state match for the Medical College of Georgia 3+ program. Now, I want to be sure to say this was not done because the program's not doing well. It's doing really well, but I think the agreement initially was there was a match, 50-50 match there, and the state has kind of overfunded, and we're looking for MCG and benefactor donors there to kind of catch up in that regard from the foundation and otherwise, and we've got numbers to support that, if you will. So that's not any slight on the program itself. It is that the MCG 3+ program is really a great program that provides rural physicians there in lieu of service, in lieu of scholarships there at the medical college, and it's really done well. So we're all for it. It's just that we need to kind of even up on the local match along with the state match in that way. You also see on section 41.14, libraries, public libraries, $1.84 million, again for health insurance, employer contributions that way. And 41.14.4, $372,000, that's again to provide funds to local library systems across the state for staffing, materials, operations. That's driven again by state population projections, and the 26 formula increase is based on a growth of about 172,000 people in the state. And I see our state librarian Julie Walker is here if there are any specific questions regarding the changes in the public libraries program, but they're fairly straightforward in that way. One interesting addition this year that you'll see is for our two public law schools here in 41.15.3, $3 million. What apparently legal education is changing now with more, almost like medical professionals, with more clinical experiences and more assistantships and those kinds of things. And this $3 million between Georgia State and University of Georgia will help them to provide student learning experiences with a strong emphasis on practical skills training consistent with other professional schools. In 41.15.4, you'll see a $500,000 decrease in removing one-time funding for the Center for Rural Prosperity and Innovations. That fund, those funds were not used, and OPB took those funds back this year. I think again the Rural Prosperity and Innovation is a great thing, and I know you all have some other ideas about that, and we're fine with all that. So, but anyway, the total recommendations for FY26 is $215 million, with $167 million of that supporting student growth. I've been asked to mention two other issues, items here that I want to. I know the speaker has some interest in the Georgia Research Alliance and the needs and UGA Skidaway Institute for Oceanography. So most of you may know about the GRA. It's been a great program, really started under Governor Zell Miller, recruiting eminent scholars from all over. I teasingly tell our academics it's like the academic field house or weight room in providing really the needs they have. They bring teams of people in these grants for eminent scholars, and they bring millions in research and grants to us. It's been a great return on investment and multiple factor there. Dr. Tim Denning, who is the new head of GRA now, is also in the room if we got specific questions about that. But the commercialization and actual creation of jobs in the private sector have been tremendous based on these eminent scholars that we've recruited to the state. But this is really a recruitment fund to get the best and brightest. As you may know, somebody teasingly said yesterday the portal is still open for these 5-star academics and their teams of research adding amazing knowledge to there. Skidaway obviously has some specific needs in the B budget, and the state it currently provides $3.2 million in annual support through the B budget section in 41.17, but Skidaway's asking for an additional state support this year to renovate existing space to create a collaborative work and study area for students, as well as refreshing the dock electrical supply line for replacement for our research vessel, the Savannah, which is the 104-foot state-owned research vessel that supports marine research. So those are the items on the B budget that I want to call your attention to. And I know I've gone through this very quickly, but I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We do have some questions from some of the committee members, and Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chancellor, thank you for coming. Thank you for the presentation. On 4115.3, I mean, I'm proud of both of our law schools at the University of Georgia and Georgia State. We're handing over another 1.5. What is the budget of those law schools? I mean, I'm trying to see what the 1.5 means in terms of their overall budget. And then the question is, what's that exactly what that's doing? Yeah.
We initially began, Chairman Martin, looking at, they were in the tier 1 from a faculty perspective, and honestly, law school faculties really require more funding than maybe some of our core teaching in sociology and other things. And that's how we began. And our law schools finally said really they didn't need that as much as if they could have this $3 million split between the two of them to create clinical experiences for these students. They're also using it as a recruitment tool to, again, not just the faculty and not just GRA researchers, but we're recruiting 5-star law students as well, and this enables them to have some resources they can use to do on recruitment and creating teaching assistants for the law school, as well as clinical experiences. It's getting more like a residency and in a medical school that they're trying to use experiential learning in our law schools to help these students become better prepared for the workplace.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor. Mr. Chairman, not to belabor the point today, but I wouldn't mind hearing a little bit more about that. Perhaps we could invite, just for informational purposes, between our two committees, the dean at.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the
I'm just
the law school,
turn a little bit more about that again,
increasing
on a
needs.
non-budgetary standpoint about the what they're doing,
the challenges and maintaining,
exactly.
updating legal education.
Right.
Certainly, those are two valuable resources in our state, and
I'm sure if you wanted to invite the two deans, and they would be happy to be very specific about how they would use these funds.
Yes, sir. If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
not just picking on these funds, but just what they're seeing in the environment out there with the recruitment of students and how we keep those folks around and in Georgia.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Any other members of the committee or either committee? We're glad to have the Higher Education Committee here as well as Appropriations Subcommittee. Chancellor, I appreciate that. If you have somebody, I think, are there people from GRA here, the Georgia Research Alliance?
Dr.
I know
Tim Denning has joined GRA as its leader over there, and he's back here. He was former Vice President of Research at Georgia State, so he's been on the ground knowing what it takes to recruit these kind of eminent scholars. And
You mentioned five-star recruits and five-star facilities for five-star recruits.
Yeah.
Would it be okay? I know we missed some things during the snowstorm to update our committees on some of the B units and all. Would they be able for a moment to
absolutely
follow up on yours? You gave us.
He's available to fulfill all my insufficiencies.
That's a short list, but yeah, if you don't mind, if you don't mind sharing that, thank you, sir. That would be very helpful. If we could just maybe for the two committees, we could hear just briefly about very briefly, but pretty briefly about your overview, kind of maybe what are some results. I think the Chancellor mentioned it was started by Governor Miller and has been an investment that has seen results that I've seen, and I know we're in a tumultuous time when it comes to research and government-funded research, but there's a lot of private research money out there, foundation money out there. There's a lot of turmoil in that, and since my understanding is y'all may do some recruiting, there may be other organizations or states that have even more turmoil, so maybe we can figure out a way to grow. But if you don't mind, if you could just give us a brief overview.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you, Chancellor. So I'm Tim Denning from Georgia Research Alliance, and just like to tell you very briefly about the Alliance. It's really a three-legged stool, if you will. We have a talent recruitment program, which is what the Chancellor spoke about. It's really recruiting world-class researchers into our member institutions across all sorts of different sectors, from life science to agriculture to energy, and really supporting an alignment between state priorities as well as university priorities. And the way we can effectively get those five-star recruits, so to speak, is to create not only this title of a Georgia Research Alliance Eminent Scholar, but an endowment, which is a one-to-one match between state funds and university privately raised funds to create an endowment. And then the researchers get to use proceeds on that endowment to help to accelerate their research. The second leg of the stool, once these researchers to help recruit them, is to really get cutting-edge, high-tech equipment and instrumentation, which can allow them to do the phenomenal research and get more grants. And then we have a third leg of the stool, which is kind of a lab-to-market leg of the stool, if you will. It's really to accelerate the discovery that's taking place within our universities, give investments, grants to the universities, and then once companies spin out to loans to companies such that they can become Georgia-rooted, employ Georgians, go back to support the tax digest of Georgia. So those are the three main kind of legs of the stool. And then this program has been incredibly successful from not just recruiting the talent and elevating the overall R&D. As the Chancellor mentioned, they bring very large teams and research programs. A single scholar amongst their entire team and the grants that they bring in is around $12 million in R&D. So just almost overnight upon recruitment, they already start to dramatically elevate the R&D of the state of Georgia. We're now we've moved up the ranks. We're now number 8 in the nation. Georgia is in terms of now R&D, university-based R&D, and that's in no small part to this wonderful program. And all of these legs just kind of work together. So the equipment pieces help to recruit the talent, but the equipment doesn't just go to one specific researcher. It's shared within and between institutions. And then these grants that help accelerate the translation of this discovery is really broadly available across the state to all of the institutions. So I'll just pause there and please feel free to dig in if there's any questions to any of those. Thank you.
I appreciate you giving that overview. Are there some examples of the areas that these researchers come in? I know over in our area in East Georgia, we happen to have a little medical community, so I think life sciences might be there, but it's more than that, isn't it?
It is. It's life science makes up about 60% of the portfolio. We have a lot of technology-based, whether it's AI, whether it's computer science, a lot of things going on. Agricultural innovation. We just recruited one of our most recent new recruits is a GRA, Georgia Research Alliance Eminent Scholar in Integrative Precision Agriculture at the University of Georgia. Going to be working in partnership with the Grand Farm Project, which I know Chancellor Perdue is very familiar with and helped to lead some of those efforts. So it really goes across many different sectors. It can be ag technology, and there's convergence between many of these. It's not just agriculture is separate from life science. There's kind of a One Health concept. We can learn all sorts of things from animals and food production that relates to human health. So it's really a good alignment between state priorities as well as university priorities, and doing this in partnership. And I would just say that when I go out and speak about this program, Georgia is really kind of viewed as a model for such a program. There's states that invest in commercialization. There's states that might invest in equipment, but to really have the flagship programs of recruiting the scholars and enabling them in their efforts is kind of really world class.
Thank you. You mentioned research and development. I think you said we're 8th. Is that where we want to stay, or what's the story on that?
Well, we have moved up from number 12 to number 8 over the span of the last handful plus of years, and it is not easy to even leapfrog one state. I think we always want to aspire to be higher. I believe that the chancellor's goal is to get to number 6. That's really a wonderful goal. We are very close, I believe, to North Carolina, who's in number 7 position right now. Our total R&D numbers are for the state universities are around $3.66 billion. And Georgia Research Alliance, eminent scholars and the like, they help contribute a large portion of that to help elevate those numbers, and we're rapidly ascending.
Thank you. We got a couple of questions. Representative Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the federal freeze on our research funds affect us in any way in our placeholding?
You know, since it's a federal freeze, it's really affecting, as I understand, all universities that are receiving NIH funding. So I always like to think about the silver lining and opportunities that may be created here. And we, again, have such phenomenal universities here in the state, phenomenal state, university system universities. So I'd like to think we may have opportunities to even use this as a place to recruit top-notch talent from other universities that are perhaps being more dramatically affected from some of this.
Thank you for giving us the brief update. I'm sure you could go longer, but thank you for keeping us on time. And it will. We do have some other units, but thank you very much for your work and your team's work, and Governor, your support. Thank you. We do have next the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust is going to speak to us. I believe we have. There we go. If you can come on up and introduce yourself about this important work that has been supported by your legislators. Thank you for being here. If you don't mind, introduce yourself to the committees and. Okay.
We do have a PowerPoint. I'm not sure if we can call it up. Oh. It's okay. All right, so I'd like to introduce myself. First of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members, for inviting us here today. I think my task, I'm the executive director of the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust. We're an organization that began under Governor Zell Miller in the 1980s, and we became a permanent state agency in 1996. And I believe that was right around the same time as the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum opened and was established in Washington, D.C. In addition to my role as executive director, I'm also a museum teacher fellow for the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and I do a lot of teacher trainings for them all around the country. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we're doing with the funds that you so generously provide for us. We have speaker programs. We go all around the state to provide programming. We bring Holocaust survivors, many of whom are now in their mid to late 80s and 90s, to schools, organizations, churches, synagogues, community centers throughout Georgia. We also do teacher workshops, and we generally train hundreds of Georgia teachers every year. We do this in conjunction with the Georgia University System, and we have been, again, all over the state working. We have wonderful partners. Most of them are professors of social studies methods. We do programming for the Georgia Council on the Social Studies. We go to Athens every year. and we provide programming and resources for teachers. We work with the Georgia Department of Education, and we have lesson plans that align with all of the Georgia standards. And those lesson plans are available not only on the DOE website, but on our website as well. So we provide these for teachers. We also provide free resources. We don't charge for any of these programs. We use both state funds and foundation funds that we have solicited on our own to pay for all of these programs and projects. We're doing an oral history program where we've been interviewing Georgia Holocaust survivors and liberators. In fact, one of our liberators just turned 101 this week. He was on a number of specials on CNN and a number of other networks. We've done programming with Georgia Public Broadcasting. When Ken Burns' special on the Holocaust came out, American the Holocaust, we provided, actually I went down to GPB. They had a program with a panel to discuss the film. So we worked on that as well. We also have a program with the Georgia Library System. We have 3 traveling exhibitions, and those go from Georgia libraries that started in 2022, and we're finishing up this year, 88 libraries throughout the state. And we have also sent speakers to those libraries to do programming there. We also work with Georgia Ensemble Theater. We train their speakers and their actors, and we also do talkbacks after the programs. We work with the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival, introducing films about the Holocaust. And we do programming with the National Holocaust Museum. Most recently, we did a video program for curriculum supervisors countrywide, nationwide. So those are the programs that we're doing, and this is how we use state funds. We are a very small staff. There are 4 of us, and then we have a few hourly people who come and help and support the work that we do. And we're all educators. So we're providing the education for Georgia citizens. And why is this important? It's important because genocides don't happen in democracies. And as a state agency, we want our visitors, people who come to our programs, all of our audiences to understand that they have roles and responsibilities as citizens in a democracy. And we have found through studies that were done through the National Museum that students who go through these programs are way more involved in their communities, in their states. They vote more often, they volunteer more often, and they become part of the fabric of this country. And that's our job. So that's what we do. And now I'm going to introduce the chair of the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust, Chuck Burke, who's going to tell you about what we have planned for the future.
Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for having us today. You have I think in the packet there, I didn't realize, I thought we were going to have the PowerPoint, but in the packet there you have a picture of a building that we are in the process of negotiating on in Sandy Springs for us to have an Anne Frank Center for Education and Responsibility. This will not be a museum. This will be an educational center in which we will be having phenomenal world-class exhibits. And let me just walk you through quickly what we're talking about there. We'll first of all have an Anne Frank exhibit, which talks all about Anne Frank and her family, and I think most of you know the story where they stayed for 761 days and hid out. And so it's all about her and the context of what was going on in the world during that time period. The second exhibit that we'll have, we're actually going to build the actual hidden place, the rooms of the hidden place where Anne Frank and these people hid out. So we'll have an opportunity for tens of thousands of Georgia citizens and students to be able to come through. Now, when I say tens of thousands, we don't know what the exact number is going to be, but I'll tell you that I was in a similar type of a facility in Illinois this past year, and it's a bigger facility than what we're doing. But they have 70,000 students come through there in a year. Now, we don't anticipate we're going to have that many, but we will definitely have tens of thousands of students coming in by buses and citizens from around Georgia. So that's just the second one, is the hidden place. The third one, there's a number of Georgia, as Sally mentioned, we have a 101-year-old survivor, but there's a number of Georgia survivors and liberators, both alive and deceased, and we're going to be able to tell their stories to all the citizens. One of those happens to be an African American by the name of William Alexander Scott III, who was a sergeant in a segregated unit. They were all segregated, unfortunately, at that time. But he was also a photographer. And if many of you, if you know the story of when Eisenhower came upon his first concentration camp, he looked and he said, "Oh my God, how could anybody do anything like this?" He says, "You better take pictures of everything, because at some point they're going to deny that any people could have possibly done this." Well, William Alexander Scott was also a photographer, and many of the pictures that we see, he memorialized. So we're going to have a special exhibit of William Alexander Scott. And we think that's important because a lot of the students we get in are from the diverse community, and this is another way for them to have entree to talk about, the things that we're trying to teach them about, to stand up against hate and racism and anti-Semitism. And so that's the third exhibit. Fourth exhibit, and I won't go into all of them, but one of those is, and Sally mentioned that this survivor that she mentions, 101 years old. Unfortunately, most of the survivors and liberators are deceased. But the Steven Spielberg Shoah Foundation in California at USC developed a phenomenal, I guess through the magic of AI and virtual reality. You may have seen this on 60 Minutes, but they brought survivors into a special studio, and they sat them there for like 5 days, hours and hours and hours, asking them every conceivable question that you or I or any student might want to ask the survivor. And through the magic of AI, we're going to have a huge TV screen like this with a survivor up there. We'll have a number of survivors we can pull up, and you'll be able to ask them any question you can think of, and they're going to answer you. Now, how they do that, I certainly can't explain it. But they say that the most impactful learning you get is from talking to a survivor, and unfortunately most of those are deceased. This will give you the opportunity to talk to a survivor in perpetuity. So I won't go into all of them, but I will tell you that we are now in the process of negotiating on this facility. The facility, we anticipate having a lease within a few weeks. Then we'll start the demo and getting things ready to be able to house the exhibits. Then we'll start bringing the exhibits in. If any of you have been to the World War II Museum in New Orleans, if you haven't been there, I'd recommend you go. It is phenomenal. And the exhibit designer who did a lot of that is the person who's going to be working with us to develop our exhibits and pull it all together. So we anticipate having this thing done now that we're moving ahead, probably sometime in spring, maybe even first quarter or second quarter of next year. So we're looking forward to it. It's very exciting, and the funds that you're providing for us are helping with the education and providing these exhibits. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. We do have a couple of questions. Representative Jackson, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm from Savannah, and we have a very thriving Jewish community in our area. But the kind of projects that you're talking about, I would like for you to look at our area, the southern part of Georgia, because of the work that the community is doing there. You know, I guess I always talk about everything south of Macon, Georgia. And we have two universities there. You have Savannah State University, you have Armstrong Atlantic, well, it's called Georgia Southern University. That can work hand in hand. Plus you have SCAD. And I think that you should look at the organization there, the JEA, to see what can be done to bring some of this to the southern part of the state. They do a tremendous amount of work. They make sure that not only their community, but the entire community of Savannah and the surrounding area knows what happened. You know, they had a production of the Anne Frank story as a comparison there. We need to see some of the dollars that you're talking about and the development of what you're talking about, the creation of the buildings that you're talking about, coming, and let's sit down at the table and see what we can do in the southern part of the state of Georgia. We are the water. We're the way that came in. So we need to have that in our community as well. I don't know if you are looking at anything in the southern part, but I wish you would, and I'll be happy to work with you in any way that I can. And I know the community. They were instrumental in sending me to Israel when I was the mayor of the city of Savannah, so I could get that experience as well. And I would like to see others get an opportunity to see, if not by going to Israel, by what they can see. They bring in people that have families that were a part of the Holocaust. So that is what I just wanted to make a recommendation.
And I think we're sensitive to exactly what you're talking about. One of the things that was in the slide deck that we wanted to show you was a map where Sally is showing all over the state where she and her people are going to provide.
Good news, it's in the packet that you have right there too, on your desk. We didn't have it for the slideshow, but there's a color picture of that. And thank you both for being here today and sharing with us.
May I just
Thank you.
respond? Would that be okay?
Oh, sure.
Chairman? Yes. So we've already brought survivor speakers to Savannah. We also work with GPB in Savannah, and we had a panel there as well, not just in Atlanta. So we also have partners now at Georgia Southern. So we're working with them as well. So yes, we're making an effort to reach students and the communities all over the state. So thank you.
Well, thank you all for explaining to us very carefully and distinctly the importance of this and the memory, and thank you for the vision that there is in the issue. And we do have one other attached organization to the university system is Georgia Military College. If Lieutenant General Caldwell, if you could come on up with us. We're on a tight time schedule, if you don't mind, but if we can move along with that. Tell us about GMC and its different campuses, and I know its home campus used to be the state capitol. So
that's correct, sir.
Thank you for being here with us today, General.
Well, Chairman Newton, thank you, and members. Just real quickly, GMC is a very unique state authority that provides educational opportunities and hope across the state of Georgia. In Milledgeville itself, on the state-owned property there, we have the K-12 program, about 900 students. It's a very high-achieving, high-excelling, fine arts, all-military type program. They're day students only. They come in from around 10 surrounding counties. Parents drive them in there. It is a formula-driven, and I'll mention that real briefly in a second, that helps support them with about 40% of their funding. The other 60% we self-generate through tuition and fundraising to operate that. Those kids, 100% graduation rate for the last 15 years. In the high school, the kids, we track them. 6 years later, 80% of them have a college degree. So instilled within them while they're in the high school is that idea of duty, honor, country, serving your nation, following through and achieving your goals. And so these kids, 51% female, will literally graduate, go on, and 8 years later, have their, 80% of them will have their college degree. So we're real proud of what that school does, what it achieves. We put them into uniforms from kindergarten up. You can see some of the kindergartners there on that picture. From day one, everybody learns about the Pledge of Allegiance. We do it every morning, and we teach leadership. Starting in kindergarten, there are ways to teach it and instill that in young people and that sense of self-responsibility, and then work it through. And when they hit 6th grade, we put them into cadet uniforms, all provided by a very, very generous endowment that's been built over many years to support that. So that's the K-12 program, sir. And then we have a junior college there in Milledgeville, too. That's our main campus. And what you'll find there, we're a minority-serving institution. African-American students are our number one ethnicity that attend our junior college. You'll find those men and women between the ages of 18 to 25 make up about 75% of our student population. They're looking for hope. They're looking for opportunity. They want to go to a four-year college or university. They're just not quite ready, prepared academically perhaps, and or a little scared going into a large setting. So they'll tend to find us, come and attend school with us, and then move on from there and attend a college or university. We have 70 articulation agreements with colleges and universities, public and private, in the state of Georgia, to ensure they have that pathway so that everything transfers that they do with us. There is no impediment at all, making sure that every single course they take is going to move forward and be accepted at a college or university in the state of Georgia. We know that 95% of our students are Georgia residents. We tend to be just a Georgia school. The other 5% you're going to find is probably out of our cadet program, where we do bring in men and women from across the United States to be a part of the Corps of Cadets. We know that 80% of our students are first generation and or low-income students. So it truly is a very unique junior college in providing hope and opportunity for Georgia residents who want to attain that four-year degree, just perhaps are not quite ready mentally or academically, and they'll come find us and then we'll help prepare them, put them on that pathway to in fact go do that in later years. So that's the big thing. We do have 8 satellite locations around the state, very, very small little locations. We, again, allow men and women to be able to come in and take some courses with us at that location. 4 of them are co-located with military bases here in the state of Georgia. We have built an online program that supports the United States military and their families, dependent members, so as they pick up and move from one of our very different locations here in the state, they can continue with their education with us to complete that. So that's us in a nutshell, Mr. Chairman. Well, I will tell you, if you look at 41.22 on page 4, that's the payments to our junior college. There is no formula that drives that. It's been fixed now. If you go back 7 years, it's pretty much the base is the same for the last 7 years. But that's our junior college funding. That gives us about 10% of what we need to operate the junior college. The other 90% we self-generate and fundraise for, providing that education in Georgia. And then if you turn to page 5, sir, and you look at 41.23, that's our K through 12 program, our preparatory school. That provides about 40% of the funding to operate that school. And again, the other 60%, we either through tuition or fundraising support that effort there.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate the numbers. I heard some interesting numbers. Did I hear 51% female, 100% graduation rate?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a number on how many went on to get a 4-year degree, did you say?
Yes, sir. What we do know is that 6 years later, 80% of them,
80%
will have attained their, again, each high school class is about 70 students. But we'll track them. We do that for the next 6 years. And we know that 80% of them will have attained their college degree.
It sounds like you're creating a unique opportunity and then doing well with the challenge. I hope you did mention your funding's fairly flat. Costs
For
have
the
gone
junior
up, so
college, yes, sir.
we certainly want to pay attention
And
to
you know
that.
what? The thing we love about the junior college, we literally are transforming lives there. These are men and women. They don't necessarily want to go to one of our tech schools and get a technical degree. They really want to go get that 4-year college degree. And so that's all we do. We don't do technical degrees. We prepare you to go on and be successful and attain your degree. In fact, a USG study done in 2017 here in the state of Georgia, just on our students that we transfer into the USG system, found that we have the highest transferability rate of any institution in the state of Georgia, public or private, and that in addition to that, our kids also had the highest graduation rates of any transferring student in the state of Georgia. You know, back then, Chancellor Wrigley, as he was talking to me in his office, he said, "Your kids have grit." And I said, well, they're all determined to change their lives, and they're just looking for that opportunity. And so we're thankful we can provide that first basic 2 years of education to put them on that path and help them get there. We're very small classes. You may find 8 to 15 students in each class. I mean, it's a lot of personal attention. We have what we call a culture of care. You know, there is no tenure in our professors. There is no faculty senates and all that. You're there because you want to make a difference in the life of the student. If you don't, then you're probably in the wrong institution. You need to go someplace else.
Well, thank you for this unique role that your organization and your whole team plays. I know you've got some others with you, and I appreciate the opportunity for you telling us a little bit about what's going on, and thank you for being here today. We certainly have that idea that we're we're providing 10%, you say, of the money comes from the state
For the junior college.
for the junior college, okay. And
Yes,
then the rest, the other 90% is from various sources?
We have to self-generate through tuition and fundraising.
Well, thank you for the work you're doing and the results it appears your team is achieving. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's no question. Okay, we'll go and move along. Now we're going to hear from the Georgia Public Telecommunications Commission. You could come up and identify yourself. Good to see you again. And I know some of us have heard bits and pieces. If you can give us the expedited version, I appreciate it. I know nobody wants to cut anything short, but I think we appreciate what you do.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to go quick. I'm Bert Wesley Huffman. I'm the president and CEO of the Georgia Public Telecommunications Commission, which is a state authority doing business as Georgia Public Broadcasting. So glad to be here with you today, and just want to walk you through real quickly a little bit about us. So GPB, you might know, television and radio, certainly we're covering 98% of the state on television. 90% of Georgians can get GPB on the radio, on more than 30 cable and satellite streaming providers across the Southeast. And then also we're growing. So we just added 3 new stations down in Southwest Georgia or Southeast Georgia this past year in areas where our emergency alert system is very helpful. Beyond that, this is just a snapshot of our budget. So we are funded at 36% by individual donors and sponsorship. 34% of our budget comes from the state of Georgia and the appropriation, which we are so thankful for. And then other pieces, federal funding is a small piece, our education studios is a small piece, and then also we have just another category. The flip side of that is how it's spent. So we essentially, I oftentimes get the question, and it's a rightful question from both legislators and donors, does the dollars that come from the Georgia General Assembly cover any of the programming for GPB? And the answer is no. All programming is covered by our donors, and in fact, it's the opposite. Much of the money that we have from other funds is going now to pay for some of the emergency management, our towers, and also our education program across the state. So that's what you might know about GPB. What I want you to know is what we're doing in education. We're vital to K through 12 education all across the state. We have GPB is the trusted digital provider. Over 200,000 materials are stored at GPB and used by teachers across the state of Georgia for instruction in the classroom. It's all free at gpb.org/education. It's all aligned to Georgia standards as set by DOE, and also it covers all subjects and all grade levels. An example would be our Georgia Studies collection, which is for 8th grade students across the state. About 10 years ago, we purchased the rights from the Carl Vinson Institute to the Georgia History textbook. The Georgia History is taught to every 8th grade student. We digitized that. It's now an app. So it's used by 80% of 8th grade classrooms across the state. That's growing. And it has more than 40 virtual field trips and walking tours. You can literally go from anywhere from the Etowah Indian Mounds to Gray's Reef to the top of Brasstown Bald, and it's wonderful for students, particularly who live in rural areas where they can't afford to do this kind of travel. That's a heat map of where all of our tools are being used currently. Last year, you may say, you produce all this great stuff, but does anybody use it? That's a very good question. 14.7 million clicks last year to access our education materials at gpb.org and on our YouTube page. Those 14.7 million clicks represent 3.4 million non-unique users, meaning one click could be 30 kids in a classroom somewhere in the state of Georgia. And last year, we had over 7,000 educators and families across 250 workshops across the state of Georgia to teach them how to use all of this. The other side, public safety. We're a big piece of public safety. We have more than 20 public safety agencies and organizations, both federal, state, and local, that have facilities on our towers, our 26 sites across the state of Georgia. We have 50% of those towers are used to support public safety directly in the communities that they serve. And we have 4,000 miles of fiber optic cable that connects all of that. GPB's engineers also work quite a bit with the National Weather Service, because 80% of the National Weather Service's radio transmitters are on our towers across the state of Georgia. And then just in 2024 alone, GPB broadcast 4,880 emergency management or emergency alerts. And then quickly, we do some other things with other funds that benefit everything we do benefits Georgians, but Friday night football, a big deal on Friday nights. Every Friday night in the fall, we have a football game from a high school in Georgia, and then we culminate with the GHSA High School Football Championships this year at the Mercedes-Benz. For 10 years in a row, every year, those 3 days that we broadcast the playoffs and championships, GPB is the highest rated public media station in the country, telling you how much Georgians love their football. We also have shows like Viewfinders that tells you about the beauty of Georgia, Fork in the Road, a love letter to agriculture.
Are you saying Lawmakers is not as popular as Georgia football?
It's beloved, I promise you. Georgia Outdoors, and then of course Lawmakers, which is a big piece of, I like to see it as a piece of your transparency to the entire state and to constituents about what's happening here. And we're proud. Lawmakers is the longest running television show in Georgia. This year, in this session, it's celebrating its 55th year, which is pretty incredible. So I often say that I see, as a nonprofit organization who spends a lot of time working with the 87,000 donors we have across the state, you are our most important and our largest individual major gift donor, and we appreciate you so much in the work that you do for us. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you very much for that and for your team's work. I appreciate your presentation today. I don't see any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah.
Thank you for your work, and pass that along to your entire team, that we appreciate you. I do have one brief question. You mentioned gpb.org/education.
Yes.
Is that only available to teachers and schools, or is that available to every Georgian?
It's available to every Georgian.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now we'll move along to Georgia Student Finance Commission. If President Riley could come on up and give us the summary of this important part of our budget that really touches even more of those 900,000 lives, because this touches students who are working on their dual enrollment and Hope Scholarship eligibility, and we appreciate that team doing that work. If you can give us the expedited version would be helpful, if you don't mind, so we'll stay on track. But thank you for being here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon, and I will give you the expedited version.
Thank you, ma'am.
We're grateful to talk about what we do for the children in Georgia and how the money that you provide to us helps them meet their career goals and dreams. I just wanted to show you in these first slides some comparisons of the growth in our major programs for which we're asking for significant additions in our appropriations for FY 2026. For dual enrollment, you can see the growth year over year, and this is cumulative of our three sectors, private, TCSG, and USG. Similar for our Hope and Zell scholarships at our public institutions. We continue to see growth year over year, and we are grateful for the Governor and the General Assembly providing 100% Hope funding each year. And this would be, with the Governor's recommendation, the third year of 100% funding for Hope tuition at our public institutions, consistent with the Zell Award. For the private institutions, we are seeing growth, not quite as rapidly, but year over year, we can see that there is an increased appetite of utilization of our programs, and some of this is also reflective of tuition increases or award increases. For Hope Zell and Hope Career Grant Awards, you can also see some continued growth year over year due to the popularity and the utilization. And we're proud of that because that provides more talent to go into our workforce, which we so desperately need. I've spoken to you before, but again, I'll talk briefly about the Georgia Promise Scholarship Program. This was created last year in statute, and we have been spending the past 8 months now of developing the program, which will launch on July 1st. Utilization for the program, each recipient will receive a scholarship of $6,500, less up to 5% administrative fees. They will be paid in quarterly installments. So the first quarterly installment to up to 21,694 students will occur in July. Eligible expenses include tuition, tutoring, materials and textbooks, and specialized services, and up to 50% of funds that might be awarded to an individual Promise Scholarship recipient may be carried over to the next year if they are not utilized in the year of the award. No more than 50% will carry over year to year, but if monies are available, they can apply to the following year, but no more than 50% in any given year could be carried over. To the governor's budget recommendations. Commission administration is a recommendation of just under $13,000, and those are for the statewide adjustments. Dual enrollment, the governor is recommending a $21.4 million increase. That is consistent with their appropriation request for the amended budget because of the dramatic growth we have seen in that program. Hope Grant, $17.2 million, again attributable to program growth and our projections for continued growth. Hope scholarships in the private sector, not quite as strong, but $3.3 million of additional funding is being recommended. For our Hope public programs, $60 million is being asked for the projected growth we anticipate in FY26. Promise Scholarship Program, as I said, this is our initial year, so there is no prior year-based budget, and the governor's recommendation is the full funding that is authorized by statute of $141 million. All of our other financial aid programs, there is no change. And I'm also speaking on behalf today of our attached agency, the Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission, and the recommendation by the governor of $1,901 are for those statewide adjustments. So in quick summary, Mr. Chairman, the governor's recommendation is for additional $243 million to meet the needs of our Georgia scholars, to prepare them to go out into the workforce and grow our economy and learn here, earn here, and thrive here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for being here today. Certainly that a little over $1.4 billion is, as we discussed, changing lives through many of the institutions we've heard from today and will continue to hear from next in just a moment. I appreciate your oversight of this and having a program that gets these funds that the legislature is directed, gets them to the students who need them so they can be effective. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I do want to hear from one of our other programs that's here today with us, the Non-Public Post-Secondary Education Commission. It's a little bit smaller organization than some of the others, but serves an important role to a number of our fellow Georgians. If you can come on up and identify yourself, and Mr. Shook. That's right. Thank you for a few moments for a quick presentation today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Appreciate time to speak to the committee. As you said, we are small, but we have a big impact in the state of Georgia. Our agency regulates all the private colleges and trade schools. There's a total of about 350 authorized schools that we authorize annually, with an additional 250 or so exempt institutions that are wide-ranging in their size and scope. In total, the students who attend our institutions usually range annually between 90 and 100,000 students, and they pay almost $1 billion in tuition. So it's no small feat what our individual institutions do. But our agency regulates them on a day-to-day basis, does site visits, conducts all of those different things, and as President Riley mentioned, we only have one budget adjustment, which is related to teacher retirement system matters for this year, but I wanted to thank the committee for the recommendation of the FY25 budget, which added some funds for some technological efficiencies and changes that we certainly do appreciate.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving some state oversight of some important organizations across large parts of our state, and in particular that I know the transcript procedural request you needed out of the amended budget. Right. Certainly important to keep people on track by having a good system. I'm glad you were working on that.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned that. One of the things we do is we collect all closed school records. So we have currently over 450,000 Georgia student records. housed at our agency, and this is just to help fulfill those transcripts in a more efficient
Since those are
manner.
private, some of them do come and go sometimes, and so
That's right.
you're the bearer of those so that people can continue their education or transfer or
That's correct.
whatever they want. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here today. I don't see any other questions, but thank you,
Thank you.
sir. We will move on to one that touches, I think we said 150,000 lives in degree type or certificate type programs, but then over 500,000 that are touched by making their lives better and their work life better. If you can tell us about the Technical College System of Georgia, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it truly is an honor each and every day to represent our technical college system. I also want to thank many. Did I accidentally close this? Did I mess you up? It's okay. I do want to thank many of you. We had our Senior Leadership Academy here. Each year we have about 25 that we designate to go through a leadership academy, and they come down to the Capitol, and this morning they were here, and I was unfortunately at another board meeting I serve on, so I missed it this morning, but I heard that you guys really rolled out the carpet for them, and I truly appreciate that. The other thing that we had today is you honored us by having our student and our teacher of the years, both our adult teacher of the year and our technical ed teacher of the year come on the floor of the House this morning, and thank you so much for recognizing them. They truly are the ones I'm here representing, both the students and the teachers. When you look at our budget, we are blessed. I don't have a presentation today, but the chairman mentioned that we have served over 525,000 individuals last year. Just a reminder, your technical college system both has our 22 colleges and our 88 campuses, but we also serve as a workforce arm when you look at the Title I, which is our WEO Act, the Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Act, as well as your Title III funding that comes in, which is called Wagner-Pizer, which is employment services. So when you look at the breakdown of that 525,000, around 130,000 or so are in the workforce side, and the rest are in the college side, as you see the lives that are touched. I will dive into the budget now. When you look at it, each of our programs in Section 46 of the budget have the three items that was mentioned by the Chancellor and many other agencies. The first item, which is 46.1.1, which adult education is our first program, that is the adjustment to the teacher's retirement system contribution rate. In adult education, that amount, as you see, is $10,000, but as you look at each of our programs, if you add that up through all of them, the total budget add for TRS is $364,910. The next item, 46.1.2, is the increase or decrease, depending on each of the line item, for our insurance premiums that's paid to the Department of Administrative Services. In this program, adult education, it went up slightly at $1,119, but if you add up each of our programs, I'm very proud because DOAS is charging agencies based on risk, and our premium went down as an agency. So if you add up each program, it's actually a reduction of $191,038. So very proud that our agency has actually had less claims, therefore we're seeing less of a charge. The third item that's statewide and hits each of the programs is the TeamWorks billing. That's obviously our PeopleSoft and accounting system. If in this program it's a $5,000 add, but if you look at each of our programs and add it up, it's $102,759. I won't cover each of those items in each of the programs as we go through. I'll just hit the new items beyond those three statewide changes. And so if you look down, the next program that has a change that's not one of those three is at the bottom of your first page on the tracking sheet, 46.5, Technical and Adult Education. And if we go down to the fourth item in that program at 46.5.4, very, very proud. It's an increase to our funding formula as a result of a 10.6% increase in enrollment. We did have a slight decrease in square footage. We've been doing a lot, and you'll notice in our our cash bond package, however we want to say that this year, under GISVIC, that we do renovations. In the last few years, we've been doing renovations, and as a result of those renovations and changes in lease, we've actually had a slight decrease in square footage. And so when you look at those two items, there's an add in this recommendation of $33,473,373. I did want to share a little bit of that success. Last year we were here and we had come out of the pandemic, and we were blessed that we had about a 3% add, which was a $9 million add in our formula. This year we're here with a 10.6% increase. And next year I'll be standing before you. You already know this fall, because we're 2 years behind on how it's funded. We already know I'll be standing here at around a 9% increase. And so the good thing is, if you don't look at it from the financial budget side and look at it from the workforce side, your technical colleges, when you look at the skills training, we're at a record enrollment right now. We're the highest we've been since 2013, which is amazing, because 2013 was the highest based on the Great Recession. And so we were servicing a lot of folks who truly didn't have the opportunity to find a job back then. If you remember, unemployment was so high that our enrollment increased as almost a result of not having a job. It was somewhere to get skilled, but it was also somewhere to come and buy your time till a job opened. We're in a record low unemployment, and I'm extremely proud that the message, thank you to you guys, the message about the quality of our education, but also the ability to find a job when you graduate, is being seen. And that's why you're seeing record enrollment. Even when you look into the 10.6% growth, there's a lot to be proud of. 40,451 graduates this past year. That's the highest in the history of TCSG, even back when we had more enrollment during the Great Recession. When you look inside of the enrollment growth, we're seeing traditional students up over 7%. We're seeing high demand up over 11%. You're seeing the areas that we'll talk about in a minute: nursing up 13%, manufacturing up 13%, automotive up 22%, aviation up 24%, cyber up 12%. So I hope that as you see a budget item here, I want you to kind of feel what that budget item is actually producing for this state and how it's making a difference for our workforce across this state. The next item is 46.5.5, and it's a transfer. It's not a reduction, really. When we flip to the next program, you'll see this money added back in, but it's an $8.4 million reduction. This body here 2 years ago decided that you would help out TCSG on high-cost programs that the state wanted to expand on. That focus zeroed in on nursing, aviation, and CDL. And 3 years ago, you put in an additional $7 million. Last year, you added an additional $8 million, but created a new program. I'm sorry, it was $8 million the first year. That's the reduction you see here. It's being transferred, and $7 million last year. When you created that new program, which is what we'll flip to next, the goal was to identify those and make sure the funding went where the need was. And so in this budget, we're transferring that first year of funding for aviation, CDL, and nursing of $8.4 million out of the general budget and putting it in the next program, which is technical education high-cost programs, 46.6. And so you see that we've transferred that $8.4 million in, and I'm very thankful the governor is recommending the third year of that funding. When this body started that, there was an idea there would be 3 years of funding for this specific area. We've had the prior 2 years, and the third year funding is at $15.8 million. And so I really want to thank you guys for really setting this apart. And if you look, an additional $31 million going toward one of our highest needs across this state, specifically nursing and aviation and CDL. The next program is workforce development. The final two changes in our budget are two reductions. It's really a transfer of the responsibility. The first item, 46.7.4, is a removal of $194,756 and transferring that to the Office of Planning and Budget. This was funding for a state workforce board director. That has been that role has been being served by the Office of Planning and Budget, and it's been done through MOA through us. So all we're doing is moving the money where the position is. The next item, 46.7.5, we addressed in the supplemental, and this is just making the same change we did in the supplemental. And last year through Senate Bill 398, the administration of Georgia's Joint Defense Commission was moved from our oversight over to the Department of Economic Development. Part of that was also the funding that's part of that Joint Defense Commission of $250,000. So the money's moving from us over to the Department of Economic Development, where that Joint Defense Commission moved. Just as a side note, I am proud that I still serve on that commission, as a great commission and serves a great purpose. Mr. Chairman, those are the items in the general budget. We are blessed to have some items over under GISFIC's budget related to projects, and obviously at any time you'd like for us to go over that, be happy to do that. But I'll stop here at this moment and answer any questions you may have or the committee may have.
Well, thank you for that presentation and that overview of that impressive growth, even like you mentioned in the face of very low unemployment. But so it's not like it was in 2012.
That's right.
When you hit previous high points. That just shows that young people, I guess mostly young people and older adults, are recognizing that these programs can make a difference in their employability and the way they take care of their families.
Thank you. We're very blessed to serve an array of aged people. As you know, we serve a general age of around 24 years of age, but that's when you lump in dual enrollment to folks that are in their 30s. We're really serving a broad range of people, especially under our adult education area. We have about 1 million folks in the state of Georgia that do not have a high school equivalency or a high school diploma, and we're here to either get them that diploma. We do have that ability through our high schools that we have now, but we're also able to get them that equivalency, and with that, we try to give them a skill.
Well, thank you for your work and your presidents and their teams. I hope you'll pass along our committee's appreciation for the work they do in changing lives. Did you have a question?
Yeah,
Vice Chair. Try it now.
Yeah, is it working now? Okay, great.
There you go.
Well, I know we're winding down in the committee here, but I just want to take the opportunity, Commissioner Dozier, just to thank you for what you're doing and what the system does. You know, I've seen firsthand the effects that our technical school in my district has had in the community and the business, and just the training and the development of the workforce development there. So it's been a huge impact, and I'm certainly looking forward to the robotics building when that gets going.
Absolutely.
So,
we're excited
thank you for all
about
your work
that.
and your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We have some great presidents and great faculty.
Well,
they
thank
do
you
a
for
great
being
job.
here today. I appreciate your presentation.
Yes, sir.
And please pass along our appreciation to your team.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you. And I think with that, we'll go on and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here.